You know Juana Martinez-Neal as the recipient of the 2019 Caldecott Honor for Alma and how she got her name. Her debut picture book is author-illustrator. You might also know her as the New York Times bestselling illustrator recipient of the 2020 Robert F. Sibert Medal for Fry Bread, a Native American story, and the 2018 Pura Belpré Medal for illustration for La Princesa and the Pea. I first fell in love with La Princesa and the Pea as a spark for early childhood and elementary STEM challenges. Then I quickly collected more of Juana's other works, such as Swashby in the Sea and Zonia's Rainforest, as inspirations for more STEM goodness in the classroom. In addition to chatting about her two newest books, I am also so excited to share that Juana and I are going to be teammates on a children's book creators for conservation Wild Tomorrow expedition to South Africa this fall. Join us for an exciting conversation on today's Adventures in Learning. So, welcome to the Adventures in Learning podcast. I have such a treat for you today. I'm kind of geeking out because we have award-winning illustrator Juana Martinez-Neal with us today, and I have been using her books for STEM and STEAM with kids since I was at a children's museum. Juana, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here. You have two brand new books out this spring. Can you tell us a little bit about those new books?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that is true. I have Paka Paka con la Papa is actually the full name of the book is Alberto Scala Plays Paka Paka con la Papa, and it's this one right here. Written by Sara Fajardo, Sara Andrea Fajardo, and illustrated by me. It's coming out in also was released simultaneously in Spanish as Alberto Salas Juega a la Paka Paka con la Papa. This is a book about, it's supposed to be a biography of Alberto Salas, who I call a potato hunter. And he's one of those people who, very few actually, but one of the people that go hunting for new varieties of potatoes. He is actually um, responsible for finding 60% of the varieties that we grow, that we know that we grow in Peru.
Wow.
Um, and one thing that is really interesting is that this number of varieties that grow in Peru keeps growing and growing and growing. And that's thanks to people like Alberto, who goes and finds them. It's a hunt against um, human development, basically, because if you build then whatever variety is under there when you're building, putting cement over ground, over dirt and soil, then that potato variety will be forever gone, and we won't even know that it was gone, right? So it's it's an important book. It's an important work that he does, and it's a real at the same time it's really fun, and I think the title encapsulates a lot of it. Paka Paka is hide and seek in Quechua, which is the language of, that was used during the Incas, but it's also the language that is used throughout most of South America, mainly because the Incas established language when they, grew. So a little bit of that. There's a little bit of Paka Paka con la Papa. I love saying the name too.
It's just, yeah, I love the way it
It
sounds.
seems
I
right.
love the fact that it's telling a story that hasn't been told yet.
Yeah, yeah, and Sara actually worked at the CIP. I call it the International Institute of Potato, but there's a center, International Center of Potato, I think it's called CIP, Centro Internacional de Papa. Yeah. And they worked together because obviously he was bringing the varieties back to the potato center in Lima, and she also worked there. That's before she started writing books. So they have a relationship that is personal. I got a chance to go back in 21 and meet with Alberto. So that was very special too. I needed to be there and then meet him in order to make the book about him.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's Paka Paka con la Papa. It's Roaring Brook Press, came out March 18th, 2000, this year, 2025. The one that is coming next is A Gift of Dust, written by Martha Brockenborough, illustrated by me, comes out with Knopf. And This is also in some way nonfiction too. Is the Saharan plumes? It basically studies goes over the Saharan plumes and how that dust travels throughout the world from Chad or that part of Africa all the way to South America, Central and South America, to make the rainforest and the Caribbean as green and as amazingly diverse as they are. Because that dust carries phosphorus, and that's what makes that the area so rich. Part of what makes the area so beautiful. So those are the two books. That's coming out May 27th, 2025.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. And it feels, as I'm looking at sort of your most recent work, and particularly these two books, that there's almost a thread of environmentalism or of reverence for the earth that has shown up in your art and in your work. Am I reading that correctly?
It has not changed. It's always been. Yeah, it's Zonia is that. I mean, even within Alma, you have some sort of respect for, those who came before you and the earth and everything. So yeah, I've been always passionate about it. Um, it's just good to have the projects that come to my table and that align in that way. Take some time to find them or to come for them to come to me, but it happens. And if you're patient, you find the right projects for you.
And at this point in your career, I assume you have a little more say over which projects you pick up and do. Is that correct?
I think you have it at every point in your career. I think that's a responsibility in some way that we have. We need to find the projects that align with who you are and what you believe in and what you sort of have as a mission, right, in your work. Um, it's scary and in some ways is nerve-wracking because you have saying no to projects can be scary because you don't know if something else is coming, after that. And of course, something else is coming. Um, but it's scary when you're starting. That if you say no to this one project because it's just not quite perfect, would I have something that is just right for me after? And it will happen. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about sort of your process when a project comes to you, like with these two new books. Because for both of these, you were the illustrator, not the author illustrator.
Yes,
So,
that's correct. Yeah.
how does that work for you when you get a manuscript and sort of start dreaming and thinking about what it looks like?
I get an email from my agent and she attaches the letter of introduction that she received with this manuscript. I go over that email and then I move on to reading the manuscript. When I read the manuscript, I know immediately if it's a book for me or not. One of the key elements to know that it's a book for me is that I'm able to read through the whole manuscript because sometimes I can't. Um, Another aspect of knowing something else that tells me that it's the right project is that as I'm reading, I see images in either people or colors or emotions. I need to see it. I need to feel it as I'm reading. If that happens, if I have an emotional reaction to it, absolutely, that's the book for me. Those images tell a lot, tell me a lot. Um, we go ahead and say it's the right project. Then it sits there for probably a while until I get to that moment when it's time to work on that project. I sign contracts ahead of time. So sometimes it takes a few years before I can actually, between the time that I sign and the time that I work on it. Um, so once it's time to work on it, it's, I think that I need to understand the emotion behind the story that I'm reading. And to me, that's my starting point. Uh, what do I feel? What emotion do I want the reader to feel when they read this book? And as picture books are for children who are new to learning, to reading, or who are not reading yet, right? Images are so important.
Yes.
Um, so I move on to emotion and how do I communicate that emotion? And that translates to palette, textures, materials. Um, what am I going to use to communicate these? Um, and then I start sketching. And honestly, I take a little longer, most of the time, a little longer sketching the project than actually working on the final art. And that happens because during the sketching stage, I'm already thinking about colors, materials, textures, all of that. Mm. So yeah, I mean that's the process. That's the process of working. Yeah.
And then I know, like with Paka Paka, you had to do some research to
Yes.
sort of understand the person you were representing. And with Gift of Dust, I'm assuming you had to do a little bit of research into what those winds looked like and sort of their
Yes.
impacts.
Absolutely. I think I love that part. Research is one of my favorite parts of every book. Um, the more I was thinking about that just yesterday, the more I make books, the more I realize that how much I love research. I was doing it from the very beginning. I just was not aware that I love research so much. But now it's just a given. I mean, it's like I have to do research, either patterns or what, what dust looks under the microscope, or what do the varieties of potatoes look like, the different varieties of potatoes, what the plants look like. And I am lucky to have the team to help me, because I always get the support from the publisher, from the author, that if they have some information, they just pass it on to me, which makes it a little easier, right? Um, yeah, that's how it is. Yeah.
So with Paka Paka, did you try different varieties of potatoes as well? Did you discover you have a new favorite?
Well, I've always had a favorite potato. That's a given. I love the papa amarilla, which is this really tiny potato. It's small, but when you cut it, it's bright yellow, and it's the best potato for mashed potato. I mean, it's the best potato you can use for mashed. It's the potato to use for mashed potatoes in Peru, and that's my favorite. No doubts. Um, for Paka Paka con la Papa, they speak about the story talks about him trying to find the Papa Zorra, which is one of the varieties. So I had to Sarah share some information about what they look like and the plant and the flowers. They're very similar, but flowers could be slightly different, and the leaves, maybe the shape of the leaves, or or so it was very specific that we needed to represent the Papa Zorra. So it was like that. Yeah.
And when you did fry bread, I loved the way you showed all the different families and different types of families and different ways that fry bread was used with families. I imagine the research into that also was fairly intensive to be able to represent accurately.
Um, One of the reasons why I decided to choose to illustrate fibroid is because I felt very familiar in some way. Historically, in Peru, we have indigenous people, and historically, they have been mistreated, um, and pushed aside, right? For years, centuries. And it's something that I grew up being very aware of, and that my dad always openly talked about. Racism is really, really, really terrible in South America, and it's embedded in the country, and it's so unconscious how you're so unaware of how whatever things we are doing that may seem natural are just racist. What you'll get to learn that later, right? But that's how it is. So when I read that line, the stolen land, I it like shook me because That's exactly, it felt very familiar. The rest of the story, what I was doing is I was illustrating family get-togethers, my family get-together. So it was something that I knew, something that we shared that was having this big get-together who you just get together to cook and everybody has a job. Either it's peeling eggs or peeling potatoes or cutting onions or doing whatever you need to do depending on your age and what you're capable of doing, right? But or making mayo, right? Like we make mayo from scratch. We don't get it from the store, right? Or whatever it is that you need to do, you assist someone or get your job done to get this big meal done. And when it's time to eat, you all eat together, and then you stay there, and you stay for seconds, and you stay for thirds, and then you prepare what we call lunch, which is like a tea time type of thing, and then you have dinner, and then the kids fall asleep, and then you take them home, sleep, right? Because you spend the whole day together. But yeah, I mean, that felt in that way, that felt familiar and easy for me to illustrate. Um, there were aspects of it that were the cultural aspects of the story where I needed help. I needed Kevin's help because I am not from Oklahoma. I am not native Black. There's so many aspects that I had to learn, from him, but he was so um, gracious and shared information that was actually included in the illustrations. So it was an amazing team effort, and I think that's my favorite part of making books, the working together. Like things get so much better when you're working with more, just not you alone, but more people helping you.
Well, and speaking of that collaborative effort, I know
Mhm.
that you and your best friend Molly actually worked on a book together.
Yes.
How did that come about that you were able to partner with somebody that you love working with?
It was actually, it's right behind you is I Don't Care. I Don't Care it's written by Julie Foliano, who I admired for a very, 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 very long time. I love her writing. And actually, the story was offered to Molly. It was published with Neil Porter Books. So Neil offered this story to illustrate to Molly. And Molly thought that as the story is about two friends, we always talk about what it would have been like if we were best friends when we were little, but because we met when we were in our 30s. And so she had the idea of illustrating me and her when we were little. And as she's having that idea, she thought, who would be best to illustrate Juana than Juana herself? So she sends me a text and says, hey, do you want to illustrate a book together? And I'm petrified because I don't know what she's talking about. And then one thing is to be friends with someone. Another thing is to work with a person. It's a very different thing. And I get scared. I really do. Not because of what she would do, but what I would do, right? Or not do,
Right.
right? I get really nervous about it. And within a half an hour, she had texted me, but she had also emailed her agent, who had emailed Neil, who had emailed Julie, and they all had agreed that it was a great idea. And but Molly heard back saying, "Yeah, we love the idea," but she had not heard back from me. Not yet. But that's how I Don't Care happened. Really, that's how it happened. Um, so it was just Molly.
And did you have fun working together to create?
Yes, it was. Uh, we signed in, I think it was 19. We signed a contract, but we didn't get to work until 2020. And 2020 or 2021, maybe. Maybe it was 21, because as we are going to start working on thumbnails and ideas, I tell Molly that I'm leaving Phoenix because we only live 25 minutes away. So part of the whole idea was, oh, they can get together. Neil thought, okay, yeah, they can figure out themselves. They can, we told them, I mean, we can work in my studio, we can work in Molly's studio. We're only 25 minutes away. Um, but then I tell Molly that I was moving to Connecticut because COVID happened and we were trying to escape Phoenix. We really were. So we made it work. It was one of those moments when you have to do what you have to do, right? And
Exactly.
we made it work. We did 4 swaps of art because we couldn't physically get together. So we would email or text and then decide things and then work. And then it will swap we did half. I was working on half the book. She was working on half the book. Then we swapped. So we worked on our own parts and on our own parts, and then we swapped again. And then we had a last run. And I was finishing my last part right before I was leaving for Peru to meet Alberto. So
Wow.
I shipped the artwork and then immediately left because I had a deadline. I mean, I had to
Right.
ship that artwork before leaving. And I shipped the artwork and left. So yeah.
And it connects
But
back to Paka Paka con la Papa
mhm.
because
Yeah.
you finished one as you started another.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
I love that. So I know that you like to travel and
Mhm.
you've got a big trip coming up in September. Um, you're the one keeping the days. How many days are we at now?
Oh, that's a good one. Hold on. I have an app, and the app tells me, okay, I'm gonna tell you here. It is 128 days.
Wow.
128. Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
be traveling with Wild tomorrow and some pretty amazing children's literature authors and illustrators, including Molly.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering sort of what drew you to that trip? What made you want to go to South Africa? And
Ah, I've been talking to Molly about going to Africa as a continent forever. And it's one of those things that I want to do, but I didn't know if it was going to happen. I knew eventually it would happen, but I just didn't know how or when. But sometimes you just have those ideas. And I kept talking to people. And I even met a librarian who said, hey, if you need somebody to go to Africa, just tell me, I'll go with you. And I was seriously considering doing that. And but I was like, no, I have to wait. I mean, I have to be patient. And I think it was 3 years ago, I was at Society of Illustrators at the opening show for the original art show, and Haley and John were there. And I don't know who, oh, Molly was talking to Haley. I hadn't met Haley yet, but we have met, but we haven't talked very much. And I am a person that it takes time to warm up to people. I take my time. So Molly turns around and says, hey, Juana, you want to go to Africa? And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I have the perfect thing for you. And then she tells me about it, and I'm like, oh, God, I'm contemplating it. But I am, as I said, I need my time. So I said, no, I can't go on this one, but I'm going on the next one. So that's how it happened. Yeah, I could not go on the first one because it's just too much thrown at me at once. I mean, just I had to see and figure it out and then learn, run all my what ifs, and have some time to figure that out. So we're going now, and then I can't wait, and I'm very excited. It will be honestly a dream come true.
yeah, I keep
Yeah.
pinching myself because I learned about the trip. I interviewed Candy Fleming for the podcast right after she had come back from South Africa. And so
Uh-huh.
she was just filled with the joy of all that she had seen and learned and what she wanted to do. And like you, this has been a dream of mine to visit Africa. And I didn't know how or where or how that was going to happen. And I'm still pinching myself with the idea
I,
that we're going to be going and able to learn and to teach and to share and to write. I can't get over how cool this is going to be.
it should be interesting. It will be interesting.
I'm very excited. Do you have any special projects you're working on right now?
I am working on I'm actually painting the pieces for the new Alma board books, number five. This is number five. And it's about animal sounds. So I'm working on that one. And I'm working on another book with Molly that should be coming out next year. And then I'm working on a third book that is about the the migration monarch the monarch butterflies migration, but it's seen from the you have a blend of the monarchs but also people. So it's about migration.
Oh, I love
I'm excited about that book. Very excited about that book too.
it. Sounds like you've got lots of great projects in the works. I know Alma was your first foray into being an author illustrator, and it
Mhm.
wound up being hugely successful. It was honored with numerous awards, and you've had the spin-offs in terms of the board books and other books for kids. What makes Alma so special?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I think she feels very real, and I think part of it is that Alma started being me. Like the main character was not Alma, it was me. But because I'm an introvert, it took a while I kept getting stuck. And so then I step away from the project and come back with the idea of Alma. I don't know how, but it came up the idea of, okay, what if it's not my name? What if it's somebody else's name? And I get to introduce, to include my family. But then Alma becomes a blend of me when I was little and my daughter. And something about that blend just feels very real. And she has a personality and she has a very interesting point of view about the world in my head, right? And I don't know, she feels very, very real to me. Yeah. I don't know if you ever heard about Mafalda. Mafalda is a character that I grew up with, and it was a comic strip by Kino. Was from Argentina. And Mafalda is this little girl who's very opinionated. If you ever get the chance to read the comics, they are brilliant. And they are just releasing, if not already released, the translated the whole comic strip, the whole set of books but in English.
Oh, wow.
So I have not seen them, but I used to read them in Spanish, and she has these. I mean, she's aware of what's happening with the world, and she knows that we are hurting so much. And this is the 60s to 70s, so she was opinionated. She
Yes.
really was. She had very strong opinions about everything. And she had a best friend called Libertad, which is freedom. And she was really small because they were from Argentina and they were going through, a lot of problems. But I don't know. Sometimes I think about that. I think about Mafalda and how much I loved it and how important of a character it was growing up and still is because I still have the books. That maybe in some way that's my Mafalda. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
And you
I
said
don't
at the
know.
start of our interview, part of Alma is the connection, that sense of connection to those who came before. And I wonder if we're not all yearning for that sense of connection and being seen that Alma gives us too.
Are we yearning for the connection to be seen?
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
I think we're yearning for connection in terms
Hmm.
of connection to family, connection to each other. And I wonder if Alma gives us a way to sort of enter into that a little bit.
Maybe, maybe, maybe that's what it is. But I mean, the thing with Alma is that she feels very deeply and very naturally,
Yes,
right? Like she just shows you that she loves you. She just hugs you. She just squeezes you. She just loves you, right? There's like a
exactly.
child, like any child would do. Like there's no, ooh, what are they gonna think about me? It's just she just does things, right? And she's very honest and natural, and maybe that's what we need as adults. It's something
Yeah.
that we
We've
we
lost
maybe
that
lose.
ability.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
but
definitely
connection, yeah,
special.
we absolutely need connection. We need this, and this is something that I feel is very much from the US, that the sense of community is so important and so not there.
Yes.
We in our strive to be independent and successful, or I don't know, have a busy life, a full life, we forget that what holds us together is community. Those people who are there all the time to support you, who will love you, who accept you as you are. And these relationships, that is the most important.
Absolutely. And it takes effort to build those relationships
Yeah, it
and
really
to seek
does.
them out.
Yeah,
It's where you allocate your time. And I
yeah,
agree with you. All right, last question for today. And it's
yeah.
a question I love to ask people, and it feels like it's an important one right now. What currently brings you hope?
Hmm. What, my work? Absolutely, my work. Yes. Yeah, I could have, like, today I was worried. I woke up and I was worried this morning. And I sat down and I had a halfway finished piece of Alma, and for the board book, and I looked at it and he like filled me with joy. And yeah, my work is so good. I love nature. I love being able to be outside. I love music. All those things like help me survive, stay, be grounded at the same time. Yeah. Um, Disconnect, but not really, right?
Yes.
Like the music disconnects me, but at the same time, the lyrics ground me back to like, this is how the world works. I don't know, it may sound silly, but that's what it feels like. Yeah.
It feels like you take time for wonder and joy.
I have to. Yeah, I have to. We all have to. We need to. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Adventures in Learning podcast today. Your works bring us wonder and joy, and we can't wait to see what's coming next.
Thank you so much, Diane.